You get 650,000 for the schools. I said, that's what's important. That's where we're falling shine. I said,
Okay, so if everyone's here, Amy, you want to start the meeting or you want me to start the meeting?
So, John. Calling to order the January 13th, 2022 meeting of the Greenwich Township Land Use Board. This is the regular meeting of the Land Use Board of the Township of Greenwich. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, in that a notice was published in the Express Times and Star Ledger newspapers. The notice was posted on the municipal bulletin board in the Township Administration Building in Greenwich Township, New Jersey, and notice was filed with the Township Clerk. Mr. Bruce Williams.
Here.
Mr. Mark Scuderi.
Here.
Mr. Paul Beam.
Here.
Mr. Joseph Chicella.
Here.
Mr. Brian Baylor.
Here.
Miss Kathy Cullen requested to be excused tonight. Mr. Gary Hill requested to be excused tonight. Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Here.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Here.
Miss Andrea Sherlaw.
Here.
Mr. Rocky Stein requested to be excused. Mr. John Drill.
Here.
Mike Finelli.
Here.
Andrew Lely.
Here.
Okay, you guys want to do the flag salute over there?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a question for you.
A
Amy.
nomination for
I'm-
chairperson.
Yeah, Amy, hold up 1 second. On the roll call, let's scratch out Bill Cognac.
Oh, yeah, I did see, I missed that on the agenda.
And then let's just make an announcement that the following board members were sworn in prior to the commencement of this meeting tonight, and I swore them in. Paul Beam, Joseph Cielo, Brian Baylor, Mark Scuderi, Jeremy Blunt, and Andrea Sherlaw, and Rocky Stein has not been sworn in yet because he's not here yet. And I'd also, like, before we do the election of officers, can someone just make a motion to excuse Kathy Cullen, Gary Hill, and Rocky Stein?
That we excuse those three.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Yeah, Amy, please.
Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi.
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam.
Yes.
Mr. Joe Chicella.
Yes.
Mr. Brian Baylor.
Yes.
Mr. Joe Fiamma.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Yes.
And Miss Andrea Sherlaw.
Yes.
Okay, so at this point then, let's ask for nominations. Anyone want to nominate someone for chairperson?
Yes, I'll nominate Bruce Williams.
Are there any other nominations for chair? Okay, if there's no other nominations, then can someone make a motion to elect Bruce as chair and then someone second it?
What was first, Bruce?
Sure.
I'll second. Motion.
I have
Second.
Joe for the motion.
Amy, you got the second?
Yes, I have Joe F and Joe C.
Okay, so can you take a roll call vote, please?
Bruce Williams.
Yes.
And Mr. Mark Scuderi.
Yes.
Paul Beam.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicella.
Yes.
Mr. Brian Baylor.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlaw.
Yes.
Okay, Bruce, congratulations. The meeting is now yours.
Board members?
Is there any payroll coming?
Okay, the next order of business is we need a nomination for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mark Scuderi.
I'll second that.
Are there any additional nominations? Then we'll close nominations. Do we have a,
Mark accepts?
Mark?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Now we need a motion to accept
You have
that.
a motion to elect
We need a vote.
vice chair with a second?
I'm sorry, you need a motion to to elect Mark Scuderi as vice chair.
I'll make that motion to elect Mark Scuderi as vice chair.
I'll second.
Chairman Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Diller,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock.
yes,
Okay, the board needs an attorney. Can I have a motion for attorney for the land use board?
I'll nominate John Drill and his firm as the attorney.
And a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I need a motion to appoint John Drill to retain John Drill to represent the board in all legal matters and to act as attorney for the year of 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
No, we nominated and then we have to
Okay.
appoint.
Mr. Bruce Williams.
By the way, on the professionals, you don't have to nominate because you have no other, unless someone has any other people to recommend.
That's what I was asking you. earlier.
Damn, John.
That's what I was asking you earlier.
No, I thought you meant just for the officers. On the officers, you have to nominate because you have a whole bunch of people to pick from.
Okay,
So we're just making motions then.
all right,
Yeah.
So we got that. Mr. Bruce Williams,
yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Diller,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph
Yes.
Fiamma, Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock.
yes,
Thank you very much.
Okay, the board needs an engineering expert. Can we have a motion to appoint Mr. Michael S. Finelli as board engineering expert for the year?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes,
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Diller,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock.
yes.
Thank you very much, board. Looking forward to another year.
all right. The board needs a planning expert. Can I have a motion to appoint Kendra Leely as our planning expert for the year?
Motion. Second.
Mr. Bruce Williams,
Yes,
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Diller,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock.
Yes,
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in 2022 in person.
How about that? There you go. There's an idea.
all right. The board also needs a secretary. So can I have a motion to appoint Ms. Amy Fleming as our board secretary?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes,
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Diller,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock.
yes.
Thanks, guys.
okay. How much of this do I need to read on newspapers?
You just mention the newspapers.
Okay, the board needs to select newspapers for publishing our official notices. This resolution selects the Express Times and the Star Ledger for those notices. Can I have a motion to select those publications for our notices? In a second,
I'll second.
Mr. Bruce Williams.
yes,
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Diller,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock.
Yes,
okay, we need to select our meeting dates for the coming year. You can, the meeting dates that are outlined here are the second Thursday of each month. Are there any exceptions to that in here?
Bruce, on this one, we need you to read each of the dates and the paragraph that we added this year to give us the ability to either go in person or go virtual by giving notice 6 days before on the website. If you want, Amy can read that because we did this in Raritan last week.
Do that?
It's up to you.
You-
I can do that, sure.
I don't know where the paragraph is.
All regular meetings, unless otherwise indicated, shall be held on the second Thursday of each month at 7:30 PM. Meeting location either at the municipal building currently located at 321 Greenwich Street, Stewartsville, New Jersey, except when said Thursday shall be a legal holiday, which we do not have any this year, or virtually through Zoom will be specified on the township website. In the event that said Thursday is a legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on another date, notice of which shall be posted and mailed. The dates of the board's 2022 regular meetings are as follows: January 13th, February 10th, March 10th, April 14th, May 12th, June 9th, July 14th, August 11th, September 8th, October 13th, November 10th, December 8th. The reorganizational meeting for the 2023 will be held on January 12th, 2023 at 7:30 PM in a municipal building.
Hey, Amy, do we have the language in here that we used in Raritan that 6 days before the meeting, we announce on the website if it's in person or virtual?
We do not, it just says it's going to be specified on the website,
Okay, so
which
let's add that in there. It's because the public needs, I mean, it wouldn't be fair to the public to tell them the day of that it's going to be virtual or in person. So
okay.
can we do what we've done in Raritan and have it 6 days beforehand?
I can
Bruce,
do that, yeah.
are you
Send out
comfortable?
the agenda Friday, so that's why I said 6 days prior, so that's perfect.
Yeah, Bruce, are you comfortable making the call 6 days beforehand?
Yeah, no problem. So you know the language or?
I do, I have the language. Mhm.
Anybody have any questions about what we're suggesting here? If not, then I'll make a motion that we adopt the meeting schedule for 2022 as read.
Second.
Mr. Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chapello,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlock.
Yes.
And Bruce, I just want to make sure that everyone understands something. For example, tonight's meeting, this is an in-person meeting because you have people in the building. And just because we have an in-person meeting and not a virtual meeting does not mean that we can't have people participating over electronic means. And I've given the opinion way back a number of years after one of the hurricanes that if there's purely procedural or administrative matters, not a hearing on an application and not a hearing on a master plan amendment, you could even do this by phone. If there's a hearing, then the people participating have to be able to hear and see. So in my opinion, even if you have in-person meetings, if board members want to participate via Zoom, let's say they're on a business trip and their choice is ask for an excused absence or participate over Zoom, in my opinion, as long as they can see the exhibits, see the witnesses and hear everything, and people in the room can see and hear them, they can do that over Zoom. Same with the board professionals. But they should coordinate with the chairman. So does anyone have any questions about what I just said? Okay.
Okay. Next one is the adoption of charges for copies of meeting schedules, notices of meetings, as well as copies of meeting minutes for 2022. I think as in previous years, we've let's see.
This is kind of outdated. No one does it, but there's a provision in the law for it, so I suggest you just adopt. Everyone nowadays asks for everything via email. It doesn't cost anything.
Okay, do I need to read through this stuff or?
For the record, you have to note the charges for the different things, even though, again, I don't think anyone has requested any of this in 5 years.
Right, so each person requesting a copy of the regular special or rescheduled meeting schedule or any individual notice of a regular special or rescheduled meeting of the board be mailed to them shall pay the Greenwich Township the sum of $20 to defray the cost thereof. Said sum shall be paid in advance of the board having to provide copies of notices for the calendar year. Any such request which shall include a request for an agenda of business to come before the board at any particular meeting shall pay to the Township of Greenwich the additional sum of $20 per mailing in response to each such request to defray the cost thereof. Each person requesting a copy of any minutes and any board meetings shall pay to the Township of Greenwich the sum of $20 per meeting minutes to defray the cost thereof. Said sum shall be paid in advance of the board providing copy to the requester. The charges fixed herein shall be subject to change upon adoption of a superseding resolution by the board. So I'll make a motion to for the adoption of the charges of copies of for this thing. As read.
Second.
Mr. Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlock.
yes,
To get rid of this though.
Okay, resolution adopting rules of procedures for 2022. I'm sure you've all read these. John, have there been any changes to these rules of procedures?
No, and no one suggested any either.
Right, okay. So I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution for adopting rules and procedures for 2022.
Second.
Mr. Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlock.
Did you get a yes on that?
Did I get a yes from Andrea? Is she muted?
Oh, you're muted,
Yes.
Andrea.
no, I probably couldn't hear me, yes,
Okay. So we're done. So next order of business is approval of minutes from the December 9th, 2021 meeting. Does anyone have any comments or corrections for the December minutes? I guess my only question, John, was there was in the correspondence, Amy summarized Frank Marquetta's email, and I have no problems with her summary, but should we have actually included the copy of it or the verbiage that he submitted?
You don't have to. I mean, what does it say read what it says in the minutes about it.
Chairman Williams read a December 5th, 2021 email from Frank Marquetta entitled Warehouse Crisis. And then she summarizes what Frank said, basically.
That's minutes only have to summarize. I always say minutes aren't hours. They're not a transcript. It doesn't have to be word for word. It's fine.
That's my question. So then I have no issue with that. Anybody else? If everyone's satisfied, I need a motion to adopt the minutes as written.
Make a motion to adopt December 9th, 2021 minutes as written.
Second.
That was Mark Scuderi. Yeah.
Mark wasn't at the meeting, actually.
Oh.
Oh, you're right.
Second.
Who was the second? It was Joe. Okay. Sorry, Mark. Mr. Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlock.
Right, and you should have 2 abstentions on that one because 2 people weren't there. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mark and Brian Baylor were not at the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, we have, under discussions, we have the 2021 land use annual report, which Amy has so kindly prepared for us, which basically just outlines the, what we did in 2021. And anybody have any questions on this? If we rapidly read it. Okay, then I'm gonna suggest that we move the resolution for that forward, just so
That's
that we
fine.
take care of that. So
Thank you.
I'll motion that we adopt the, what do we call this? The Greenwich Land Use Report Annual Report for 2021.
Second. Or you needed a motion?
I made it.
Right,
You- oh, you made a
second.
motion, okay.
Yeah.
Bruce, and, Mr. Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo,
Yes.
Mr. Brian Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yeah.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock.
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to a review of the draft of the reexamination report. So Kendra, you're
I'm up. Mr. Chair, would you like me to share my screen so I can do a high-level review of this?
I think that'd probably be good, don't you?
Okay.
Yeah, great idea.
I just need to be enabled to share my screen, whoever has permission.
Oh,
Okay. Amy's gonna try to figure out how to give you permission.
that should work now.
Yep. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Great. So, taking you back to early 2021, there was a movement to start the master plan reexamination report, master plan and development regulations reexamination report, which is required by municipal land use law to be completed a minimum every 10 years. You can certainly do that anytime you want to, but you are to adopt a new reexamination report within 10 years of its expiration, which we are coming up on in March. So what we did in the last, let's say, 9 months is, I think it was in February, I had given an overview of what the reexamination report includes. I gave, I think in April, some questions for all of the board members to work through. Given the limited budget, it was probably best that the most of the legwork was actually done by board members as well as other folks within the municipality. I think we had a meeting a couple of months ago that talked a little bit about some of those questions as a board as a whole. And then I took all of that information and with Bruce's help, as well as other people within the municipality, put together a draft reexamination report. This has been issued today. My intention is to go through just some key pieces of it tonight and really look for you to review it over the next week and get your comments back within a week so that we can make any revisions and then put it up for a public hearing in February. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of run through page by page. Again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on every piece of it, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what is in here as a summary. So I'm going to move to, if you all have, I don't know who has copies of it, but anyone that can see this, I'm going to move to the introductions section of the plan, of the report, which is on page 1. This basically just describes what I just indicated. It talks about what we reviewed in the preparation of the report, which really has, most of it was the previous March 2012 reexamination report, Highlands Plan, County Open Space Plan, our land use and development regs, census data, which is 2020 as well as 2019. What you'll see here is I just highlighted some things with regards to the municipal land use law. These are the requirements that we are to cover in a reexamination report. Essentially, a reexamination report basically is just you're looking at previous master plans, previous reexamination reports, and you're identifying what were the major problems and objectives at that time. Have they been reduced or increased or let's say resolved, indicating that. And then essentially that's one big piece of it. The second piece of it is what has changed not only in the municipality, but regionally and via the state. And we'll talk through that. That would impact potentially future recommendations for your master plan and development regulations, which is in the reexamination section, which you'll see here under D. And then finally, the last two pieces, one is, are there any parcels that that should be looked at for looking at it for redevelopment, meaning that you would go through an area in need of redevelopment study. And then finally, which is new, which we'll talk about, is any recommendations concerning appropriate locations of EV stations or electric vehicle charging stations. So that's basically what is supposed to be in a reexamination report and per municipal land use law. So what we've done is starting on page 3, I've actually combined these two, the first two pieces of it, meaning that we are not only identifying what the major problems and objectives were in 2012, but we're also saying whether they've been addressed, whether there's an increase or a reduction in those particular issues. So what you'll see here is that there's 12 particular areas that we bring up, and you'll notice that they're identified by numbers, by letters A through whatever number it ends in. And then the topic is, for instance, this first one is in 2012, there was a need to increase recreational land and facilities. And so what we basically do is we create a summary of what the 2012 report said in the bold italics. Then we say, here's what has happened since then, meaning, in this particular instance, this goal and objective of increasing recreation land and facilities still remains valid. It doesn't, it didn't go away. There's still a need for it. And then there's a bit of an explanation. And that's the format of how we address each of these issues as you walk through the next couple of pages. So just more than anything, just for awareness, these are, so need for increase of recreation facilities, need for municipal services and emergency facilities, need to update the wastewater management plan. There was a concern, and there's several pieces within here that the Highlands planning area, that there's some degradation concerns. In this particular instance, there is a recommendation that this remains valid and that the township should consider whether to continue discussions with the Highlands Council and whether they want to go through the plan conformance process. So you'll see that particular recommendation or at least reaction in several of these pieces. Circulation plan requires update. I want to draw your attention to this one specifically. There was a request that we specifically recommend that road F on the existing circulation plan, and Mike Finelli probably can talk to this a bit more, be removed because it's no longer applicable. But then we also go further and we say on all future roads that are identified on that 2005 circulation plan also be reviewed for removal. And then that the affordable housing sites should be added to that circulation plan. So I think it's pretty important, given what's happening in the municipality and the concerns with truck traffic and just general overall circulation, that's probably a pretty high priority. There's an affordable housing update. We give information as to what has happened since 2012. There's a bit of a long paragraph as far as historic commission and the historic preservation plan. and identifying the village of Stewartsville as a state historic site, as well as putting it on the National Register. Scenic character protection. We talk a little bit about the State Development Redevelopment Plan. Again, going back to the Highlands Planning Act, and that the township should consider future discussions with them for plan conformance. The Stormwater Management Plan, my understanding is this is actually very close to being completed by Mike Finelli's office. And it would be, if we can get this done before February, we would like to attach it to this reexamination report. And then finally, the Farmland Preservation Plan, that's been updated up to 2017. There's probably some updates that have occurred since then, and just recommending that that plan be continued to be updated and in accordance with SADC regulations. So that's the.
Kendra,
Yep, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, not to interrupt, but just on that point specifically, we just modified, updated the Farmland Preservation Plan literally like last week. We've been dealing with Frank Pinto, who's the township's open space consultant, and the open space committee. So there is that plan is very, I'd say it's done, to be honest with you, but it still needs, it's right there. So that's pending and presently just about finished.
Okay, so
excuse me.
I will, I can add a sentence that we're in the process, there will be an update in 2022 of that plan.
Very good.
Thank you. So that goes through that section. And then the next section, which I'm not going to belabor at all, is what are the significant changes that have occurred locally, regionally, and via the state. On the local side, we really look at census data, and we give a couple of charts on population, on some housing, and you can look at that at your leisure. You know, maybe you need to get to sleep tonight, and you can take a look at that. The county and regional level, we just talk about the council with their master plan, New Jersey Transportation Authority, Warren County. These are all the regional entities. So there's some information there. There's a bunch of new laws that the state has passed under the municipal land use law that you all really should be aware of. And so I would really encourage you to take a look at it. We are, you know, one of the biggest ones is looking at land use as it relates to storm resiliency and environmental sustainability. There's now a climate change related hazard vulnerability assessment required with any update to a land use plan or a new land use plan. John Drill, I know, is the expert on that because he has written a good article in New Jersey Planner. There's been new updates in the redevelopment case law. Of course, you all know the cannabis legislation that came out last year. Last year. There's some updates to reexamination report requirements, of which we have included in here, including the public electric vehicle infrastructure that's required to be addressed. And then also the make ready parking spaces that's required per the MLUL, which was passed in the summer of last year. And then I think that's about it. So the real kind of like the highlight of the reexamination report is this particular section as we move into it. These are the specific changes as we move into from 2022 for the next 10 years. And I'll just say next 10 years, it could be for the next year, it could be for several years. But essentially, these are the changes to the master plan that are being recommended. And they kind of, for the most part, dovetail with the previous section that I highlighted with those 12 different areas. But this really just highlights the specific pieces that this reexamination report is recommending. Again, considering master plan conformance with the Highlands plan, consider updating the wastewater management plan, updating the circulation plan, providing a stormwater management plan, and updating the farmland preservation plan, which all of these are seem to be well on their way to where they need to be going, you know, other than the circulation plan element, which we really probably need to take a look at. And then there's some general development regulations that need some updating. The zoning map should be updated if it's not already. to include the affordable housing zoning districts. I didn't notice it on there, but that should be updated. And then there's some what I would call technical issues with the zoning ordinance. The conditional use regulations had been requested to be updated, as well as the zoning code, generally just making it more user-friendly and eliminating any outdated or unnecessary provisions. And then finally, you'll see here in reaction to municipal land use law that's recommended that the ordinance be updated and determine what amendments may be necessary to implement that new law, the municipal land use law concerning electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So technically, that's what is recommended through this reexamination report and what I would call your guidance document, as you as the planning board can start to think about what's important from a planning perspective. Remember, you all not only look at development regulations, but you do plan for the town. And so this gives you what I would call your implementation agenda or your priorities as you move into the, let's say, the next 10 years. You know, what do you want to accomplish in the next year to 2 to 3 years? And then finally, the redevelopment plans. So these are recommendations that would look at specific properties that may be, identified to investigate. These particular properties have already, by resolution by the governing body, have been passed and said we would like to look at these particular lots. And these, just so you all know, these are areas, parcels that are between 22 and the Target shopping center. And it also includes the IHOP, the gas station, and a commercial building next to it, and the motel. So a little bit further along 22. So that's what was we've incorporated that because obviously that's something that's out there via a resolution that's of interest to the township committee. And that's it. It's quick, but it's concise and to the point, and I'd be happy to answer any initial questions that you may have.
Anyone have any questions for Kendra?
I got one, because I know that we're under a time constraint to have this approved and everything else like that. That doesn't mean that we can't make a change 8, 9, 10 months down the road.
Absolutely.
Correct,
Yep.
correct.
Yeah, you can, I mean, this is, as I try to tell all the boards I work with, we call this a living document. It's not set in stone. If something changes, if there's a focus of some, particular need that you want to look at, the reexamination report can always be updated at any time.
Does anyone take any particular issues with anything or?
I have a question. What was the term? Make ready? The EV parking.
Make ready.
What does that mean?
Make ready.
It means that that you provide the electrical and all the infrastructure for those parking spots so that if and when somebody were to provide for the actual pieces of mechanics that somebody could plug in a car to, it's already there. You don't have to dig up sidewalks. You don't have to, dig up any of the pavement. You already have the pieces that are near there to implement that.
Conduits and wiring, that sort of thing, everything but
Correct.
the charger. And what my other question is, I don't recall what road F is, just out of curiosity for earlier
Okay.
from our meeting.
No, I'll take this one. I'd be shocked if anybody knows what road F is, other than maybe John, because.
I was gonna say, I know.
Yeah. All righty. Road F is just a arbitrary designation from when the circulation plan was done back in 2005, and all the proposed, not proposed, but potential new roadways that might have been looked to be built in conjunction with development applications. They were designated arbitrarily road A, B, C, so forth. And road F happened to be the road which would be at the very southeast corner of the township, which was in essence, I'll call it an industrial driveway. It connected to 173, and then it went up in a north and westerly direction and into basically the Cuva property in that area. And it was set up to potentially accept industrial related traffic from the development of that southeast corner of the township, which in 2005 was fairly, was I think all ROM and maybe some industrial, but it obviously permitted a lot more larger box warehouse type development.
And then the following year, in 2006, most of it was rezoned to RC, Resource
Oh, yeah.
Conservation.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
so
right
there's
now,
only the 2 lots now
Right.
that are ROM.
right now, it's
No.
really it's like a road to nowhere. But
It is, it's a road to nowhere. It intersected 173 and went up to a cul-de-sac. So it literally was a collector driveway, if you want to call it that, that was situated to accept traffic generated from this site development of the adjacent properties that this road snaked through. So
Like, that's not the alternative entrance to Meterex that was discussed back then, is it?
yes,
You know, there was a lot of discussion about,
that's what it is.
but there was a lot of discussion at the time about the current Cuba or Meterex entrance as kind of a blind spot there. And so there was talk about putting in another road to alleviate that situation.
well, we should probably mention about our meeting, John, at this point.
Yes, I was gonna say that.
Okay.
This is not coming, Bruce, this is not coming out of thin air.
About this earlier, so.
Yeah, yeah, Bruce and I actually spoke about this earlier today.
But no one on the board knows about it, Mike, so why don't you give a
Sure.
synopsis?
Okay. I received a call, I don't know, let's say 3-4 weeks ago from representatives of Cuva and their engineer to set up a very initial preliminary meeting with John and I, basically to go over a pending application that they were considering submitting.
Right, and so not a pending application, to go over a concept for an application.
Yes, a possible application that they were looking, they wanted some advice, they wanted to know process, they wanted to talk about Road F and so forth. So that meeting occurred last week. Actually, in my office, John was on it via Zoom. There was a Cuva rep, there was their engineer, and then John and I. And they looks like they're going to be proceeding with an application. They're far from being prepared to make any submission. And what it will be right now is a third building located on the, I'll call it the virgin parcel right now that Cuva owns, which is the
Vacant parcel.
Yeah.
Adjacent to the parcel that has the 2 buildings on it.
Right, which goes up to from the way station back to the existing Cuba buildings. And it's in the ROM zone. It's set up to be half manufacturing, half warehouse. Total of 160,000 square feet. So that's 80,000 manufacturing, 80,000 warehouse. Now,
And the warehouse would be accessory to the manufacturing. The manufacturing is the principally permitted use. And just to cut right to the chase, during the discussion, they said, hey, what is the township, what does this road F mean? Because under the municipal land use law, if you have a master plan road and the planning board in an application for development says to the applicant, you have to plan around that master plan road. And if you put that as a condition in the resolution of approval, the township then has 1 year to buy it, to take it by eminent domain. And so that got Mike and I discussing, after they got off the phone, you know, what is the circulation element that has this huge long road that if they actually said, yeah, we'd like to use that, they don't have to, not only do they not have to give the property to the township has to buy it, they don't even have to pave or install the road. So then we looked at the circulation plan in general, and basically it should really be reviewed. It's so out of date, it's not funny. I mean, it was put together in 2005, and then the following year, a whole bunch of stuff was rezoned. But for whatever reason, the circulation plan was never redone. That's how this comes up.
So, that led me to call Kendra to specifically mention the recommendation for the removal of Road F, because we were going to have this discussion tonight. The timing was such that John said, call Kendra, go over this with her so she can be specific to at least Road F, take that out of the equation, because the update to the circulation plan, as Kendra has outlined in her master plan re-exam report, is another comprehensive work effort in itself. So that's where that comes from. That's why it was discussed and brought up specifically.
Right, and that's why the board professionals all recommend that this document have the language in it that it does.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is Road F adjacent to this company?
No,
Road F basically goes off of 163 and goes to the middle of the field. The
Right.
field that's,
Mike, is there any way that?
I actually have it. Do you want me to
Kendra, can
share
you-
it?
So
can
do
you
you?
circulate plan
Because I
map up
can't
there?
actually connect to my office right now, so I can't even get to it.
The circulation map.
There you
So-
go. Beautiful.
That one
Very
is-
nice.
Hold on one minute.
There's F.
I'm gonna reduce it just a little bit.
Now, if you look at Road F, Kendra, I don't know if you are able, do you know the two Cuba parcels or not?
I do not. Do you? I mean,
Yeah, Mike-
obviously,
Mike
Yeah.
and I do, but we can't.
There you go.
I'm
you
getting there.
first.
I'll get it nice larger for you. All right.
There we go. We're getting there.
You can get,
Mike, can you try to describe the two Cuba lots?
yeah, I'm trying to move the photos from where the intersection is here.
You just,
Mike, you see the intersection of County
Yeah.
Road 37?
Yeah, I got it. I moved it to the other side of the screen. Okay. If you see Road F, I'm sure everybody can see on their screen. Again, basically Road F was just going to be a large industrial collector driveway, which was going to align with where obviously we all know where Route 173 kind of veers off to Bloomsbury versus Route 632 heading out towards exit 6. There was going to be potentially a new intersection and a realignment done, and then the road obviously constructed heading to the west and then to the north. And the Cuva lots are directly below Road F. That
Here?
large.
No,
No,
here.
right, that one there, and a little, and the one right below that, Kendra. No, to the left, or to the right, to the left. Geez, sorry. That lot, that's the lot where the two existing buildings are situated right now. Then there's the remaining lands lot that is just a vacant farm parcel, which is the big piece between where the arrow is right now and Road F.
right.
And then the way station. So it's
So-
those.
so this will just be removed. Well, what we're recommending is being removed now. And the rest of the plan should be looked at and figured out whether there's other.
Correct. Because Mike, explain, while the two Cuba lots remain ROM, what about the other lots that were contemplating being served by Road F? What is their zoning? Are they ROM still?
Well, there's only one other there's 3 ROM lots in the town, the 2 Cuba lots that we just noted, and then I'll call it the Rocco lot, the one directly contiguous and adjacent to the east of the Cuba lot, right below the way station right away, as you can see it.
And
That-
that
that
one,
Road F goes right through the middle of,
and
basically.
the Rocco lot has frontage on Route 173, and all the other lots that were north of Road F, which used to be ROM, were all rezoned RC. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, it is, correct.
So there's only 2 possible users of Road F, which would be Rocco, and it goes right through his property, and he doesn't need it, and Cuba has told us they don't need it. And again, if it's on there and it's part of the planning board approval, then you've now put the township in a position where they have 1 year to take it, or it doesn't have to be built anyway. So Mike and I figure, so what the heck is the purpose of having it on there?
Well, especially with this pending application and what John explained about the township's responsibility and so forth, it sounds like it would be a wise preemptive move by the board to just get it off the plan. Then we just don't have to deal with it, because I don't think anybody sees that road in any way, shape, or form as ever really being constructed at this point.
Anyone have any questions about that now? And then again, I then said to Mike and to Kendra, you know, I have no idea about all those other roads. I don't know about E or I or C or D or A or whatever, but that.
They're almost all,
Again, it was all done in 2005. And then the rezone, then in 2006, there was a major rezoning. So who knows? But that's why we recommend looking at those other ones also.
Yep. Yeah, a couple of them couldn't be built now anyway because of farmland preservation, such as Road C, as an example. That lot's been preserved.
I mean,
I mean,
there might be some you want to keep, but this having a circulation plan from 2005 is, in my opinion, it's bad planning by definition.
No, well, especially based upon the zoning at the time when this was adopted versus the zoning now is
Right.
apples and oranges, to use a technical phrase. So yeah, it needs to be updated for certain.
Any other questions for Kendra?
Thank you, Kendra. That was helpful that you had that. Great.
So, Kendra, at one point in your presentation, you had mentioned adopted by March. I believe we need to do it by February. What's our date, John?
The 2012 re-examination report was adopted on, hold on, I have the date, March 14. So it's got to be done by March 14. But the reason that we want to have this on for a public hearing and adopt it in February is because when is the March land use board meeting?
14th,
It's March 10th.
February, March, yes. Isn't it?
So you could wait to March 10 to do it, but what if, I mean, listen, it is snow, my birthday's on March 18. When I was a little kid, I prayed for snow on my birthday and we got it. So if you got snowed out, I wouldn't want to be in a position when, you know, we're violating section 89 because section 89.1 of the MLUL, even though the possibility of this happening is so minuscule, but Mike and Kendra, you know, I'm a nervous Nelly about this stuff. Okay? We're supposed to have it adopted within 10 years. I'd like to have it adopted a month before the 10 years. That's why, Bruce.
Okay, so basically for the board members, that means that there's not another meeting before we have a public meeting to adopt it, which means that if you have any concerns or recommendations for changes or, you know, edits on this, you need to go home and do it and get it to Kendra in the next, you know, week or so that it can be circulated again to the board so that we're in a position to adopt it in February.
Well, that's why I had asked, because I know that we're under the gun with this. And that's why I wanted to know that 10 months from now might be when we really sit down and look at the circulation plan. You know, can we do it then, or does it need to be done in the next 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, this.
No, 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 no.
Paul, we're not redoing the circulation plan now.
No, I understand that, but I wanted to make sure we could do that, but we need to get this passed.
No, but
Now.
basically, so yes, the circulation plan is a part of the master plan.
Right,
But this is a re-examination report
Right.
where we're saying, okay, this is good, this is
Yep.
not good, this
Yep.
is what we need to do.
got it.
We're not incorporating the circulation plan in this.
Yes.
Correct.
This document just recommends that the circulation plan be redone and specifically Road F come out and look at the others. But this is,
And go up and spend money and get it done.
I hear you.
but you can always decide that you don't have to do it, but at least there'll be a re-examination report when Cuba comes in with their application that recommends that the road be taken out.
Sitting here saying, we told you so.
No, I hear you.
Now, also, this is a public hearing on this master plan amendment, which requires the board to give 10 days notice. So I will work with Amy on that, but that means Kendra needs to have this finalized. We need to give Kendra, we need to give the board members a cutoff date on when they can give Kendra changes, in other words, because this document has to be on file at least 10 days prior to the hearing. And notices have to be published in the newspaper at least 10 days prior to the hearing, which means the notices probably have to go out maybe 4 or 5 days before the 10 days, which is like 15 days before the hearing. So if Kendra needs a final document by, let's say, for planning purposes, March 1, I would think that out of fairness to Kendra, board members should get her any revisions they want by when, Kendra?
Well, it should be February 1. So what I'm going to suggest is if
That's
you
what I
all,
meant. Sorry.
yeah, if you all can take the next, if I could have something by the 21st, which is next Friday, that would be preferable. And then I can make any changes the week of the 24th.
Right, and then, so we're
Yeah.
targeting Amy. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but probably our notice is gonna have to go out to the newspapers by at least February 1 to have it hit 10 days before the February meeting date.
Well, the meeting date, John, is February 10th.
So the 31st.
So
So we're gonna have to get our notice out.
maybe January 28th, actually, which is the Friday, right?
Yep. So yeah, no, I think that's fine. If I get them by next Friday, should be good.
Yeah, it gives you a whole week, geez.
Right.
Well, this thing is in pretty good shape.
No, I know.
For Tuesday, reminding everybody to change.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions about the re-exam report or questions for Kendra or how we're doing this? Okay, if not, thank you very much, Kendra, and I know we pushed you to get it done quick.
All good. I'm glad I was able to get it done.
All right.
You all did the heavy lifting, so I was the scribe.
We did what our budget afforded us. All right, next order of business would be a review of the current escrow balances. I've asked Amy to make sure that when she sends them out to us, that she in particular sends them out to professionals so that they can look at them and see if there's any issues. In particular, if you know you've got a bill coming and there's not money there, then you should let Amy know so that the controller can ask for the money. It looks like we're in good shape on Target Drive Up. In fact, there's a lot of money there, but I guess you've got a lot of certification stuff to do, Mike. I mean,
Yeah, they've got to come through with their compliance plans yet and so forth. I mean, that's plenty of money left. I would think. I mean, I was surprised actually that at that balance. So we're in good shape with that. Willow
What about-
seems in good shape, so
Target Rooftop.
that's
You're gonna be
the one.
perfect. You have more, have they even started that?
No, it's been crickets from them since the approval, so maybe I should actually reach out and connect with somebody and find out where they're at, what their plan is, schedule and so forth.
All right, but I think everybody but you is probably done with this, so you'll be doing your stuff.
Yeah, compliance and the construction phase work and so forth. Yeah, most of at the very end of these jobs is more of engineering stuff than planning or legal. Yes.
Any questions on the escrow summaries, or
About how much should we ask for them?
do you have a number in mind of what we should ask for, Mike?
No, because I actually have to refresh my own memory. We haven't really done anything with Target Solar in months, and I gotta refresh my memory as far as where they were. I think we did a compliance report. They were found that they were pretty much ready to go, so they could go pull their permits. So I need to make that phone call to them to kind of see what their schedule is and what, where they're at and what their plan is. So there should be we should probably have a pre-construction meeting. So that's the typical, process that we enter into it, at this point. So.
Right, so you'll have that meeting and let Amy know, give her an estimate of how much money we need to ask for.
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
All right. Are there any COA updates?
No, unless anyone has any questions, we're still rolling along like we've been rolling.
Hey, John, the issue with the sewer line for Willows is resolved. I mean, the committee took action to say that they would accept it. So I haven't heard it. I haven't heard anything from the
Right, and
Willows
I haven't heard
folks,
anything from them either, right? So, yep.
nor anything from Petrucci either, for that matter.
I actually got a phone call from Peter Polt that I have to return.
Yep.
So it's probably asking about the status of that. I got to find out the status from the eminent domain attorney. So that's where that is.
Okay. So our next board meeting is February 10th, which will be an open public meeting, in the very least for the master plan re-exam. And at the moment, nothing else is on the horizon for that meeting, I don't believe, right?
No,
That's correct.
not to my knowledge.
So with that, somebody can make the all-important motion to get out of here.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is adjourned, meeting is adjourned.
And I,
Mike,
Everyone have a nice night.
Good seeing you guys.
Hey, Mike, can you hang on
hope
for
you
1
feel
minute?
better.
Oh, yep, sure.
As related to the question that we were talking about from zoning the other night about a barn or a carport going on somebody's property and the
Yep.
size, you said that there might be restriction in the zoning and everything. I couldn't find anything that said that